Thank you so much. That's very nice of you. Anyway, so knight e6, then bishop e3, which is a standard move in this position, though normally that move is played a move before instead of d5. Hey, Czeslaw, my friend, very good. Thank you for joining us. It's very good to see you. Anyway, so knight g4, which is a line that I'm not yet sure. I'm still feeling my way along this line, whether knight h5 or knight g4 are better. But at any rate, knight h5 basically precipitates pushing on f5 early and then trying to play traditional King's Indian plan with which black attacks on the white king on the king side. So after that, but I decided to play knight g4 because I consider that knight attacking this bishop on e3 is a proper plan, and also it indirectly delays any kind of c4, c5 push, which is what white normally does in this position. So after bishop d5, which is a normal move, bishop g5 is actually considered the best, but it's a little bit committal, because if instead of this, bishop d5, let's play bishop g5, the book tells us that you're supposed to play, f6 in g5, and and then after bishop g3, knight is supposed to, you can play f5 immediately, or even better, put the knight on h6 and play f5, which is for anybody who has played King's Indian as white. This bishop is really misplaced on g3. It really is really biting the granite of e5, and it's in a danger of being a little bit lost. Anyway, obviously that wasn't played in this game. White played bishop d2, which is a perfectly good move, and I proceeded with thematic f5, which computer considered the best move, and it's basically a standard move. After castling and knight c5, black has one plan that's a standard in this position, which is to try to park the knight via g5 to e6, and then that achieves two things. This knight, which is obviously you can't do it right now, because you have the knight on c5 and bishop in e6 are both defending e6, but if this e6 pawn can be maintained for any even short length of the time, it's a little bit problematic for black to get rid of it, and it also opens up d5 field for black to take advantage of. In some variations of King's Indian, the whole f5 plan is supposed to be preceded by playing h6 to prevent this jump on g5, but I think in this particular line it's not necessary. At least that's my judgment as somebody who is struggling to be a 2000 player. So anyway, I consider this position to be roughly equal, and I proceeded accordingly. Knight g5, and here is my first mistake, or if you want, an error in this game. I should have taken the advantage of an extra tempo to play a5 here, which is a thematic move. But very frankly, I played this game after my matches against #chess, and I was kind of, I don't want to say tilted, but I was a little bit not exactly on top of my game. I was tilted. Let me be frank about it. So I played h6, which is a perfectly fine move. Computer considers it's an inaccuracy, but I don't think it's that much of an accuracy, because white really doesn't have time to jump on e6. And as you will see here, hey, thank you Delaware GR for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. So after b4, which is a thematic move, I decided to take on g5, and computer approves for once. And then after bishop takes on c5, we ended up being in a little bit of a rather interesting position in which, we are playing King's Indian, but this is a very not traditional King's Indian in which, normally black aims to have this pawn chain from c7 to f4, and white is pushing this b4 c5, and normally the c5 is a big breakthrough. So we kind of strayed away from traditional theory here, and it requires some changing of plans, which is pretty hard to do in a 3-minute game. Anyway, to continue, f3, and this is my second and bigger mistake in this game. I should have just played knight h6, and in which point, I wouldn't have lost the pawn on g5, and I would have been very close to better, if not significantly better. Anyway, so that was my first missed opportunity in this game. So after bishop takes on g5, I played a6. The purpose of a6 is to prevent any advantages of any jumps of the knight on b5, and that knight would be fairly annoying. One reason why putting the knight of f6 was rather unfortunate is because the right place for the knight from a standpoint of defending this position is actually on d6, where it's blocking the d5 pawn and also kind of exerting pressure on e4 and c4 pawns. And obviously from h6, from g4 to h6 to f7 to d6, it's a two-move shift to get the pawn on d6. Anyway, for a 3-minute game, this wasn't, I don't consider this a major blunder or any kind of a losing move or anything else. The material is equal, position is actually equal, and I played queen c, after queen c2 I played queen d6, which basically instead of a knight, queen is blocking the pawn and also protecting both of these pawns, which is actually somewhat important as the subsequent course of the game will show. So here is a rather strange move that I honestly didn't expect from white. It's a very aggressive move, and it's a move that's highly committal because it sacrifices a pawn for not much compensation and a significant weakening of the white's position. Why is that not a good move? Well, first, the e4 pawn is all of a sudden a little bit of a question mark, and also because if you look closer, taking on e4 also liberates this bishop on this long diagonal, and all of a sudden the bishop on g7 from a piece that's hitting its own pawn on e5, a normal problem for a black bishop in black dark square bishop in King's Indian, all of a sudden became a monster. Anyway, so I played knight e4, which is an obvious and best move. I'm getting out of an attack, I'm grabbing an extra pawn, and I'm preparing to play ef4 and liberate the bishop. So the only move is to take, and as you will see the evaluation of this position, all of a sudden black is now better. Whether that advantage is sufficient for the win, I'm probably not sure, but it's an advantage, and it's a significant advantage. So after takes, bishop f5, which is a natural move. Bishop develops, attacks the queen, asks the question of the queen, where does it wants to go, and then it threatens to take on f4 immediately. There is another, in all honesty, pretty bad move by white, because the problem here is that all of a sudden we have a potential pin between with queen and the king, and here is, the black bishop is here, and here is the pawn protecting it, and all of a sudden this is starting to be a little bit ugly for white. And obviously I'm showing this in my best losses. I would love to have this position one more time, but obviously I did not. Taking on e4 is the best move. White takes on f4 again, and here is one of the, if you want, the missed opportunities of this game for me. Black now has a very foreseeable, a very visible advantage, and the way to convert that advantage is to play the move that computer likes the most, which is to basically put the queen on b6, and then it has a double threat. The double threat is to take on a1, and also a threat to create the spin against the queen and the queen and the king. In other words, it's comfortable to say that the only possible way white can defend this would be to play either queen d2, which basically sacrifices the exchange, or maybe play rook d1 and then sacrifice the exchange. It's crucial in this position that queen from b6 defends d4. And yours truly rushed a little bit, and it wasn't... after queen b6, and I'm going to show this, after this, that's one of the top 2 position toilet break chess. It's the best defense for white, according to this, is basically to sacrifice the exchange and play queen d2. That's what comes up by the engine, and that kind of makes sense. But that's basically an exchange for for nothing, and it's very close to the winning advantage. Instead, and this was my first of several mistakes I made subsequently, I played immediate bishop d4, which actually throws away the bulk of the advantage. I kind of ran into my usual problem of the error of trying to simplify the position, and ended up throwing away a lot of advantage. Anyway, after takes on d4, cd4, bishop takes on d6, cd6, we have a situation in which, instead of black being exchange up, we now have a position in which material is equal, but the pawn on d4 is very hard to defend, and it's gonna fail. Hey, Mad Queen, it's very good to see you. It's my queen. Very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to joining my Best Losses Monday. It's always good to see you here. Thank you. All right. So, but this is, in my opinion, this is a perfectly fine position. It's a holdable position. And after rook a d1, rook a8, all of which are perfectly normal moves. And a computer, if you look closer, consider a rook a d1 to be a minor inaccuracy. Anyway, after rook a8, bishop d3, rook e3, and actually, according to the computer, I was supposed to take on d3, and now a couple of exchanges. All of this is a normal moves. We are now king f7, which is not the best move. Best move was king g7, because king g7 has some advantages. Actually, I'm curious to see. Oh yes, because on the difference between king g7 and king f7 is that if black plays rook f4 and then takes the pawn on f5 with a check, which basically almost forces forces black to go play king f6 and defend the pawn. To be honest with you, I didn't see that difference, and I didn't even think that would come into play, so I played king f7, and I don't think that necessarily makes that much of a difference in the position. King f2, very good move. Rook a3. Obviously, pawn on a2 is weak, and rook d2, and here is a perfect moment to stop and take a closer look in this position, which is, yeah, KBK91, my friend. Thank you for joining us, and I just want to give two quick shout outs to one Mad Queen, who is a fellow streamer and a friend of this channel, and I also want to give a shout out to KBKhan91, who is also a friend of the channel and a fellow streamer. Please give them both a follow. They both KBKhan streams chess, and one Mad Queen, last time I saw her, she was playing Among Us. So thank you. Hey ChessBeast1129, it's very good to see you. Welcome to the stream. This is my Best Losses Monday. It's a recurring stream every Monday at 8 p.m. I'm analyzing my losses from the previous, usually weekend or a week or something. This is a game I played against a 2200 player called Isolated Killer. This was a 3+0 game, and it was played as a part of a sub battle. So here is a good time to stop and take a look and take an assessment of this position. White is a pawn up, but by way of compensation, black has a very active rook, which is extremely important. Which is extremely important in these rook endings. On top of it, white has several weak pawns to defend, and with an active rook, it's pretty obvious that black should be able to hold this position, to be very frank with you guys. So yes, ChessBeast, I'm one of the supporter. Yes. Oh, the one with the Queen, I would love to, if you and I can have a co-stream in which we can learn some chess together. That would be wonderful, and obviously I would be happy to do the co-stream and any collaboration you want. Oh, thank you, ChessBeast. That's very kind words of you. It's very good. Anyway, so after this, and here is one big mistake first endgame mistake that I've made. In this position, and I have actually analyzed this, it's very important to attack. Thank you, ChessBeast. Thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. It's attacking pawns from behind is probably the best way that rook can attack. And here with rook c3, it would be difficult for for white to first, it's not possible to defend both c4 and a2 pawns the way it was possible in the game, and also, interestingly enough, in some sort of a main variation here, after the best move rook b2, and then king f6, or taking immediately on c4, take on b7, and then black can swing the rook over an a4 and take this pawn. It's a position in which black should be able to draw while because of the activity of the rook. Anyway, so all right, so obviously that was my first mistake. Instead I played king f6, which is actually significant inaccuracy, and after that rook c2 is actually a waste of time. What white should have done was instead to play c5 and create a passed pawn, and this d pawn, if black takes with with a pawn would actually be very hard to stop because it's supported by the rook, and this rook cannot reach the a rank. So basically, if you look at the main variation after c5 is c5 and then king, not this, king e5, and and then here black is all of a sudden from a very active position. Black has a very serious question how he's going to stop a potential d-passed pawn, and at the same time white can just play h4 in this position, and white is all of a sudden winning, and winning conclusively. So this was a mistake on my part. And then rook c2, it's white tides its rook into defense, which is not a very good idea or generally plan in rook endings. So after rook a4, which is a good move, king e3, king a5, rook b2, f4, and I should have just grabbed the pawn on c4, but that's perfectly fine. Rook a3, and after rook b3, obviously we are not going to exchange the rooks. We reach this position in which welcome to the community, ChessBeast1129. It's very great to have you. And so the rook a2, according to the computer, this is now a completely drawn position. Both sides have 4 pawns. Both sides have passed pawns, and this should be under normal play a draw. I think that Isolated Killer and myself managed and proceeded this to pretty mess up this endgame. And I'm going to continue. Rook b7, rook g2, those are the best moves. Rook e7 is the best move. King f5, and then after rook h7, these are basically best endgame moves. After h4, king g4 is actually not the best move. Because it's, a better version of it would have been to give a check on g3 and then decide to, at some point, push either of the f pawn or a pawn. And you will see how in this position, all of a sudden, it is black who has 2 passed pawns, which is a significantly, better situation than it was a couple of moves ago. Anyway, after h5, f3, which is, I'm still should have played rook g3, because king here is on d3 is actually very well placed to block the f pawn on one hand and also protect the pawn on c4 and distantly keep an eye on a5. So I needed to get this king to declare itself. f3, perfectly normal move. h6, f2, which surprisingly is actually the best move in this position. And here starts the comedy of errors in this game. And we start exchanging, I don't want to say blunders, but significant mistakes. So f2, obviously king needs to, either king or rook needs to stop it. Rook f7 is actually the better move. However, and here, I'm making a huge blunder that should have been punished by playing rook g7 check, king h2, and surprisingly enough, after this move, king f1, black is completely lost because the f2 pawn is blocked. The rook has absolutely no way of stopping the h pawn, and there is a threat of rook g2, and I'm completely dead. So that was, a missed opportunity, if you want, a huge mistake on my part. Instead of king instead of pushing with the king g3, I should have just played rook h2, and this is a very simple drawn endgame. Interestingly enough, I can't even take an excuse for that. I was low on time. I had 42 seconds, which honestly on 3+0 for me is quite a lot of time, to be quite frank with you. I was one of the nice things about this game is that I actually had plenty of time and I was playing pretty fast. So that was one very good thing. And all right, but that wasn't played. King g3 is a losing move. Rook g7 is the best move. I play king h2, which is the only attempt, and white returns with a losing move of its own. And this is one of the reasons why I actually want to stop in this position. In this position, it's black moves and wins, and the move is actually quite obvious, but I didn't see it. Chessbeast, to answer your question, and I don't have a title. Actually, one of the reasons why I'm doing this is I would like to get a title. I still have ways to go. So, hopefully one day I will have a title. I think my objective strength is probably in the 1900, 1950 to 2000 range, US CF. I'm at least 200 to 300 points away from being able to claim a title. I don't have a title. Anyway, so, and you're right, Chessbeast 1129. The winning move is king g1, and if you look closer, black is now winning. Why is black winning? Because the queen promotes with a double check, and this pawn cannot get promoted soon enough, and basically black is now winning. What was very funny is that after I actually watched the WOD of oh, thank you, One Mad Queen, that actually means more to me than any title in any chess title in universe. So, hey, Azerty GG, it's very good to see you. Thank you. It's good. Thank you for joining us. So king g1, and what was very funny was that Aman was there being very nervous on the stream, and he's saying, "Oh no, he's gonna, we are losing," and so on and so forth. But yours truly didn't see it, and since I didn't see it, I played a really bad move, which is rook g6, which is actually a really bad move. I could, rook g8 would have been better. I was kind of hoping, I don't know what I was thinking, to be quite frank with you. I was hoping that attacking the pawn would achieve something. So after rook g6 and h7, king g1 is actually a bad move. I should have played rook h6 and given away that pawn on f2. It's still losing, but it would have been more thing. I allow the promotion, and as happens with the players of all rating categories, I've seen the motive, but after the opportunity had passed. In other words, I saw that king g1 is basically threatened, that king g1 and rook g2 and pawn on f2 threaten a double check promotion. But unfortunately, I saw it only after the game was, opportunity to actually play it has passed. Anyway, I will spare you the details, and rook f2 is actually even not the best move. There is no need for white to do this, but I'm not going to spend that much time. This was a very easy win for white, and in this position I've resigned. And this was frankly a little bit unfortunate, because I was, as I indicated at the beginning of this stream, I was not playing very well all weekend, and I was a little bit salty and so on and so forth. but if I look at the if I look at the closer here, I look at the beginning, looking again at the game, and I'm going to focus on a couple of key moments. I'm pretty happy with the way I handled this early d5 King's Indian. I think knight a6 is the move I'm going to continue to employ. I will consider whether I want to play knight h5 or knight g4 in the future. I will not miss to play a5 here, because in this position is, let me put it this way, black is not worse here. The knight at c5 controls e6, and this knight is actually pretty good, and if it comes back on h6, it can proceed to... Hey, Injury to Insult, thank you for the host, that's very greatly appreciated. Hey, ChessBeast 1129, thank you for the follow and thank you for joining us. It was very good to have you here. Thank you for stopping by. Anyway, I'm not, this is a position that I should be very happy to have in any of my King's Indian games. And I think in this position, I don't think black even needs to play h6 to prevent knight g5. I think that knight is kind of stranded, because with this knight here and this bishop on c8, jump to e6 will not achieve anything for white. Hey, and I'm Jesse Cohen. Thank you for hosting the stream. That's very greatly appreciated. Looking forward to seeing you again, ChessBeast 1129. Thank you. Anyway, so to look forward, this was fine. Knight f6 was a needless blunder. I obviously need to work to prevent. Hey, Omin, my friend. Thank you for the host. I think this is actually on Mad Queen, but thank you. That's very good. That's very nice of you. Anyway, so after bishop g5, I think I handled these tactical challenges fairly well. I think I actually outplayed white in this position. f4 is a definite blunder. I don't know why Isolated Clear played it. It's definitely not a good move. And after knight e4, this is all fine. I needed in this position to find queen b6, because queen b6 would have been a winning move. These bishops are definitely scary, and oops, so that's not very precise. After queen b6, basically it's a question of sacrificing this rook or sacrificing the queen. It would have resulted in me being up an exchange. So anyway, so tactics. And endgame was a little bit of a comedy of errors, in a sense that, we really exchanged blunders multiple times, but do I really hold myself? I'm really upset that king g1. I missed king g1. I probably should be. That would have been a won game for me. Here I should have found it, but I didn't, and the rest is not important. Anyway. So what I'm going to do here, yes, exactly, Azerti. We also have trying to simplify is one of the, indeed, can be a pretty big mistake. Actually, that's going to come into play in the next game I'm going to share with you guys. It's a game that I played against WM Jesse February. That was actually the very first game of our adoption match. So let me close this. Actually, we don't need to close it. So this is this, and if you look closer, you will discover that white had a winning advantage throughout the bulk of the game, and then all of a sudden, it ended up being a draw, and the reason I'm showing this on my best losses was that was the first game of the adoption match, and the fact that it was a draw meant that adoption was basically defeated. Anyway, so let me show you the game because it's a very interesting game in many ways. E4, C5, standard Sicilian, open. Computer calls this Leventhal, it's fine, it's take on D6, take on D6, and the Queen E7. Here is a one, if you want a cleavage position here. Theory doesn't like this, although computer does, or whatever, it's going to settle down. The best move is to basically, one option is to play Queen C7, and another option is to basically retreat with the Queen, preferably to D1, and they basically play against the D7 pawn. I have Taborich to clarify. Adoption is a term that's unique to chess on Twitch. It's basically 10 wins in a row without any draws. So if a person A defeats person B 10-0 in one session, the person A has then adopted person B. I actually, one of the standard streams that I have every week is on Sundays, and I play a series of adoption matches against titled players. I think this match was actually match number 15, and since I am actually higher rated than Jesse, I decided I'm going to give adoption a try myself. And I have to tell you one thing that I learned playing this match. Playing to defeat adoption is very difficult. Azerted, Jessie doesn't really care about her online rating, and she's actually underrated. And for the record, her rate, that's actually her highest rating I've seen. She has been 1700 and so on. She really doesn't necessarily care. But I decided to let me play an adoption match in which I'm trying to adopt. Objectively, I didn't have any chance, but I learned my lesson in a sense that it's very hard to adopt, and it's very hard to play with understanding that you absolutely have to win. Anyway, you will see this in this game. So Queen E7, computer considers the best. Theory prefers Queen C7. But that's fine, takes. And here is a position in which, is black lost in this position? Black is not lost, but black has this weak pawn on D7, which obviously cannot be pushed. And the queen's off, it's, we're now in an end game, or very close to it, and it's very hard to defend this pawn. And I wanted to play this position to try to focus on capturing the pawn on D7 or on a D pawn, wherever it ends up. And as you will see, I was actually able to capture it. So castles, rook E3, F5, that's a fairly good move. And you will also notice that white has one more further advantage. White has a bishop pair, which, I thought that combination of those would allow me to play for win. So F3, good move, D6, knight C3, knight B4 is tricky, but it's really not a good move. It's not a good move because there is a simple counter, which is castle long, and you will see that all of a sudden computer considers this position winning for white, for the simple reason that this pawn on D6 is now, hey, thank you Taborich, thank you for the follow, that's very greatly appreciated, thank you. That this pawn is now weak and needs to be defended, and it actually it's very hard to defend it effectively. And you will see that Jesse actually played the best move, The best move to defend this is when it settles down. The best move is actually to sacrifice the pawn and defend this to, and try to defend this position pawn down. Rook d8 is a move that fails to a very simple trick, which is bishop c5, or even bishop g5, which would have been a better move. But it's the same idea. The same idea here is that this rook is pinned, this bishop is in a bad shape, and this is a double attack, and the black is forced to lose the pawn. Anyway, knight c6, rook d6, all fine. Bishop g4, developing the bishop, which, believe it or not, is the only place to develop. h3 is perfectly fine move. g4 is perfectly fine. Bishop g5 is a slight inaccuracy, but that's fine. What bishop on g2 does, it basically takes under control this d5 and prevents. It creates this very strong outpost for white pieces. Anyway, takes on d6, takes on d6, rook, knight c8, bishop c5, and here we are now another key position in this game. The key position here is that white is a pawn up, and white has a bishop pair. But more than that, you will see that this bishop controls all these fields and denies them to both black knights. In other words, both black knights here are being dominated by this bishop. It's very hard for black to put, where is this knight on c8 going to go? It cannot go here, it cannot go here. If it goes here, then what next? What is next? This field is being controlled by pawns. This field is being controlled by pawns. If it goes to a7, this field is being controlled to pawns. In other words, this is a really bad knight. And, when all is said and done, this should have been enough. This is a winning advantage. Okay, after a couple of normal moves, so now I'm not gonna spend too much time on them. This is still all fine. And after b5, b3, all are normal moves. Bishop g6. Here is my first mistake. And what was very funny here is that as I was playing it, I even thought it was a mistake. I'm making an error of trying to simplify the position. And in the process of simplifying the position, I'm exchanging a dominant knight on d5 with a rather not so dominant, I don't want to say pathetic, but it is pathetic knight on c8. This was a needless blunder. I really didn't need to do this. I could have played h4, I could have played bishop b2, I could have tried, to push this bishop away from g6, but, I wanted to simplify. And this doesn't really lose the advantage, but it does lose a significant part of it. White is still winning, but this was unnecessary and needless. Hey, Durkee, my friend, it's very good to see you. I'm showing a game, first game of my match with Jesse February yesterday. So, anyway, so after knight e7, bishop e7, king f7, bishop c5, and that's even a little bit of imprecision. King e6, king d3, knight c6, a3, knight a5. Black is still lost in this position. Bishop f8 is a perfectly fine move, and here we get into another critical position in this game, and this is where as you can tell, not my best day, it was not my best weekend, but what can you do? I guess You know, chess is a brutal game, and that comes with the territory. Thank you, Dirkie. That's very kind of you. Anyway, so knight b3, which is actually not the best move objectively, but it is a tricky move. And the tricky move that it requires a little bit of precision on the part of white. In other words, best move, best plan h4, and what was very funny is that I have basically a dominant advantage. I have 30 seconds more on the clock. It's 5 plus 2, so plus 2 seconds increment. It's not really a flaggable type of thing, but there is no need to force this position, and that's exactly what I did. So I played c5, which is not a good move, then a5, and here is the first in series of blunders. The best move in this position, and it's actually quite an obvious move is to play c6. And, you know, it's subject to some debate how exactly is, you know, black going to stop this pawn. In other words, black doesn't have time to take on b4. And I'm going to show you the line. It's basically play c6. The only way to stop the pawn is to play king e6, c7, king d7, bishop d6. And this is elementarily one position by white. Very simply, take on e5. This pawn cannot be defended. This knight is a little bit stranded. It can go on d4. This bishop cannot really do anything, and obviously cannot go on f5 to stop the pawn. And this is a very simple, simple win. What white does is at some point, when a convenient, plays king e3, and then transitions the bishop over to a6, and it's a won position. So yours truly, which is why I'm showing this, and this is not, made a blunder, which sacrifices a lot of advantage, took on c5, then made another blunder and played king c4. In other words, I had two needless blunders in a row. And then after knight e4, which is actually not the best move, I took on e4, which was not what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to keep the bishop pair. But, the problem here is, and this is something I need to work on, when you blunder two pawns in a row, you're very likely to keep making blunders, because I don't want to say that it's psychologically tough, but it is psychologically tough. And here is another thing, obviously this is all of a sudden now a deadly drawn position. And even here, it's much better to take an a5 than to take on e5. But, in other words, I had a completely won position. This is a won position for white. And this is move 1, move 2, move 3. And after this, after 4 moves, I converted this into a draw. And to be very frank with you guys, I then proceeded to, as you will see, to play pretty badly for the rest of the day. And you will see making blunders, isolated killer, and so on and so forth. Anyway, the rest of the game is not important. We agreed to the draw that defeated the adoption in the very first game. Then I proceeded, you will see, then Jesse and I played another game, and there was a little bit, it was more or less a similar story here. But what I wanted to, the reason I'm showing you this game is, I'm really not faulting myself the way I played this game until I actually blundered all these pawns. In other words, c5 is an accuracy, but that c5 is tolerable. I could have just played h4 or g5 or any neutral move, and it could have been perfectly fine. But I'm not faulting it. I fault myself for not playing c6 here. And basically, oh, thank you, Mad Queen, for gifting us tier 1 sub to Salty Clown. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. Hey, Bladecap, hvala na pohvalama. Hey, Davina, it's very good to see you. So, Bladecap and Davina, I'm showing games from my match against Jesse and Rebecca yesterday. So there are some interesting losses there. So here is an interesting situation. Here, interesting situation is that I have a very the reason I want to show this game is, in other words, the comedy of errors. In other words, up to move 28, up to this position, I thought I played this game quite well. I don't want to say perfectly, but extremely well on a very high level. I made an error of trying to first simplify the position. So that's a tendency that I have to work on, and unfortunately that is a tendency that has been my tendency for a long time. Second, I blundered advantage over 3 done moves. And here, you see, I still have 46 seconds. You know, 46 seconds. Why am I giving away to the bishop pair? Either bishop e5 or bishop a5 would allow me to play for a win, because, you know, I still have a bishop pair. You know, this one of these pawns would fall. It's highly likely that another one would fall, and it would basically give me an opportunity to play for a win. Oh, thank you, Mad Queen, for giving Davina a shout out. Thank you. Anyway, so, and what basically happened here, very honestly, is, hey, Rebecca Loran, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. It's very good to see you, my friend. Thank you. I'm showing games from, actually they were all played yesterday. So, you know, as you can tell, it's just one disappointing weekend. As Dricke said, not my best, I had better days, let me put it this way. Thanks. Okay. Oh, thanks. So it's, okay, Rebecca Lauren. Okay, thanks. Actually, my rating got a little bit, Lobo Capablanca got a little bit of hit. I think I'm 1983 because I was salty and lost 2 more games afterwards. Anyway, that. I really don't care about that much. But thank you guys for joining us. And the problem here, and the reason why I did this, is first, simplification biases. Second, this is a different type of a match. And it's a different type of a match than my usual adoption matches. In other words, I had a bias. Okay, this is draw. Let me close the deal, and so on. Playing to when you have to win is actually significantly harder than I thought it would be. I actually underestimated that. So, but again, you know, why am on earth taking this knight, converting into an endgame, which you know, opposite color bishops, which is dead draw, instead of taking on a5 or e5, and then I can actually play with a distant passed pawn, and my 2 bishops are actually stronger than bishop and knight here. Anyway, Rebecca, let me say this. I think you know, I've seen your play. You can be you can be 2000 very quickly in 6 months to 9 months if you just, you know, play a little bit more and do it. You have I always like the way you play, and you're a very tricky player. You have an eye for tactics. So Anyway. All right, so game one, adoption defeated. All right, we said, okay, let me play for half adoption. And that was this game. And if you look here, let me just be very gentle and show you these reports. I was white here, I was black here, and these curves have a few things in common. And, and I managed even to lose this particular game, but let me show you, because frankly, I am still salty about this game, and you will see why. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4. Jesse always plays Scotch Gambit. I knew that. I prepared for it. It was part of my preparation for the match. These are all book moves. All of these I have studied. And here is the key moment in this particular game. Jesse plays this on a regular basis, and this is actually a fairly significant blunder. That's actually a losing move. And why is it a losing move? It's a losing move because, after take on c3, take on d5, you have a very simple way that you are either down a couple of pawns or black is up a piece. And here is the move. It's bishop e6. So I had this position on my preparation, and so the question here is obviously this knight needs to be taken, and white has two options. If he takes with a rook, and this is a good trick to know, knight e7 is a winning move because there is a pin here, and the knight is now defending this, protecting the king, standing between the king and this rook, and now black is going to next move capture on d5 and be a piece up. Jesse instead played bishop e4, which is actually a better of the moves, but after rook d1, and here she's basically a pawn down, and black is definitely better here. It's a much better position for black. Anyway, so take on c6, knight d4, bishop d7 is actually the best move, and the reason it's better than playing something like bishop d5 is that you want to take the white knight f5 square, which is interesting. So takes, this is not a very dangerous check. After bishop d6 and this, basically black has a one position. Oh, sure, of course, thank you. I'll be happy to make you a mod, Mad Queen. I would be honored. Okay, you're a mod, Mad Queen. Thank you so much. Thank you for volunteering. Welcome to the mod squad. Thank you. Anyway, so again, this is. So I will venture to say that I've outplayed Jesse in the opening, and I have here a position that's basically, complete. I would say one. This is not dangerous, and here, the pawn on f5 is going to fall, and and then I'm not even going to delve this much into this particular endgame, but you will notice, and this is something that I notice as my own pattern, this is a completely one position, but I am starting to slip, and and I'm gonna stop here. Hey, Evan8 here. That's very good to see you. Welcome to joining us. welcome to my best losses. I'm showing games from that I played yesterday. Yesterday wasn't my best day. So black here has a pawn, is a pawn up. He has a very advanced passed pawn. He has, this structure is pretty bad. And yours truly managed to actually lose this position. Anyway, thank you, Mad Queen. I'm very happy to have you as a mod here, especially since tonight I don't have any mods, so thank you. So this is another rook endgame, as KB Khan noticed, and this is fine, and here is the first blunder here. So this is a completely one for black. All I need to do is to... Hey, Danya! It's very good. Thank you, Danya, for the huge raid. Welcome. Welcome, raiders. Welcome to my best losses Monday. This is a recurrent stream on my channel in which I'm showing my most illustrative losses from the games I played previous week. It's every Monday at 8 p.m. on Mondays. I'm showing the games I played against WIM Jesse February, and they are illustrative because it illustrates a couple of tendencies that I have that I'm trying to work on, and Danya is kind enough to help me. So thank you, Raiders. Thank you, Danya, for the stream, and thank you, Benjamin Bach. Welcome. It's good to have a grandmaster here, and Tanya Dostinho. Those words mean a lot. Thank you so much. That's very greatly appreciated. All right. So, and I think Benjamin will probably criticize me here because this is another one endgame that I managed to mess up, and I messed it up because very simply because I didn't find the right plan, and this happens to me on a somewhat regular basis. Semi-regular basis here. Yes, even Benjamin Bach is a grandmaster, and I don't know if Danya is still here. We got a raid for Grandmaster Naroditsky. So after G4, this was, this all of a sudden is a major mistake because I didn't find the right plan. And then obviously not having much time, I converted into this, which is objectively a draw, and then trying to push into some sort of a winning endgame. I ended up flagging in this position. So the issue, the reason I'm showing you this game and why I think this game is very instructive and pretty important for me to study further is that if you look here, so this is a simple rook endgame, minus 3.06. Okay, should be an easily convertible win for me. I'm gonna go back to this game, which Raiders was another game played on this match against WIM Jesse February. This is plus 3.14. and should be another easily win game for me. I ended up drawing this game, needlessly basically throwing away the win. Go back to the very first game I share with you. It's a game with Isolated Killer. There is a moment when, and I'm gonna share this with you guys, when I need to find King G1 here, and that's minus 7.29. So what the purpose of these streams and the purpose of these matches and the purpose of this whole series of this is I'm trying to improve my chess. And these three games, they were both played yesterday. Rook endgame, missed win. Rook endgame, missed win. Light pieces endgame, bishop pair, missed win. I need to focus on endgames, but not the elementary endgames that like simple endgames. I need to focus on strategic endgames that, in other words, sit between middle game and simpler endgames. I think my simple endgames are perfectly fine. I'm very familiar with various elementary endgames, but when time comes for a more complex endgame, my strength significantly deteriorates to the extent that I miss a lot of points. So that's something that I kind of put on my to-do list somewhere near the top. And I have, I'm going to start working on it. And that's kind of the reason why I've showed you these 3 games. Anyway, so this was an adoption match. Incidentally, for those of you who came from Daniel's channel, every Sunday at noon New York time, I play an adoption match against a stronger player. Adoption is basically winning 10-0. This match, which a little bit different because I was trying to adopt, was match number 15. I'm playing another match on Sunday. Anyway, so endgames, Nicola, strategic endgames. Something you need to work on. And let me now show you another game. This is a game that I played with WCM Rebecca Selkirk, who together with Jesse February makes the great team of #chess. And let me give them a quick shout out. Yeah, please give them a follow. They're great ladies, great friends of this channel and chess in general. All right, so if you look closer, so let's take a quick look at this game. Again, what was played was a standard Sicilian. This is all normal, and I have played H3 Sicilian with some success against Najdorf. Here I was basically pushing my luck. I was trying to play it against a different variation of Sicilian, and I kind of got away with it. You will see this. So g4, bishop b4, queen d3, d6, which is a mistake. Knight e4 was actually a significantly better move. Bishop d2. And this is incidentally why you really should not play h3 and g4 in this line, because after white really in this line doesn't have time to play g4, because knight e4 is a very strong counterpoint, and basically white is now lost. But yeah, at this point I was, as I mentioned, I was a little bit salty, and therefore I played this. So what can you do? Anyway, Rebecca missed it. I played bishop d2, at which point I'm fine. This is now starting to become a position that's better for me. I'm very comfortable in these positions. I was very happy to have this position on the board, and you will see that I have advantage now, and here is a very simple way of converting that advantage. This queen attacks bishop on b4 and the pawn on g7, and it's a very easy way to collect a couple of pawns. So unfortunately I played reasonably well thereafter, and however I managed to mess up this position. This should be this is a very instructive game how not to play with an advantage. In other words, I was trying to simplify. I even blundered a few pawns. I'm still better, but not by much. But the key position is approaching rather quickly, and this is the key position. And the key position here is that here we have, and yes, some non-chess master, time control was 5+2. And that's a standard, standard time control in all of these adoption matches. So here we have another rook endgame in which yours truly has a dominant position and then proceeds to play it correctly for quite a few moves, but then blunders. And I'm pretty proud of this f5 tactic. But what basically happened here was, you know, all I needed to do here is to play rook g7. And after rook g7, and I'm actually show you guys this on the board, so you can see what I'm talking about. Rook g7, king g5, and basically black really doesn't have a way of stopping this g pawn. However, you know, in my defense here, I was down to 7 seconds, and I'm not going to say I got scared or anything else, but I got, you know, to be very frank, what basically happened was that I ended up, I don't want to, I've been oversimplifying all this time, I don't want to oversimplify, so I'm going to play this. The problem here is that this is actually a lost, a lost position for white. And I did some effort at defense, and there is another moment that I want to show you guys. None of these moves are particularly interesting. This is all fine. Obviously black is winning, but Rebecca made a blunder that basically would have allowed me a draw right here. And that's, in other words, the move king a3 would have resulted in a draw. In other words, obviously, the adoption would have still been avoided, but I wouldn't have lost. So obviously, since I didn't take, I played a bad move, and and the rest really it's not that important. That's just the game is lost. So what is the moral of the story? Why I'm showing you this? One, I have I always considered my end games to be one of the strengths of my game. And I think that's true, but that only really applies if you're talking about end games in which very simple end games. Simple end games in a sense that, with minimum of pawns and minimum of pieces, like one piece versus another piece and a couple of pawns to one side. I've discovered as I'm progressing in this chess journey, and for those of you who came on Daniel's channel, my ultimate goal is to try to get a title, to play in Title Tuesday. My end games are basically insufficient. And interesting thing is that even last week before this match, I started looking at Jesus de Villa's 100 endgames that you must know, and I've discovered that I'm actually familiar with all of those endgames. In other words, those not the endgames I have a problem with. I have a problem with endgames like these. Let me find you. In other words, not here, not there. Okay, yeah. I have a problem with endgames like this. In other words, endgames in which position is not that simple, a position in which you have more than one piece, and a position that, although it's not a middle game, you still have plenty of tactical opportunities. So I'm just gonna show you here. You see, again, these are 4 games, all played on the same day. Missed win. So, okay, missed win, loss. Missed tactical opportunity in a single move. Missed win, dominant position. Missed win, draw. Missed win, loss by flag, objectively a draw. And finally, completely missed win. And finally, missed an opportunity to save myself here. So, yours truly basically needs to study some endgames. And there is really no way around it. That's an absolutely essential conclusion of Sunday. There is another conclusion that it's worth mentioning. That conclusion is playing against adoption is one thing. Playing Evan, I'm not sure which game we're talking about. This we're talking about Isolated Killer. Yeah, back to here. Oh yes, I should. We're talking in this position. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Instead of rook g3, I could have played rook h2, and that would have been a drawn game. Rooks were at the top. Where was that? Here? Okay. B1 and B2. Oh, okay. I mean G1 and G2. Okay. Here? Oh, you're talking here, right? Okay. I'm sorry, Evan. I don't see it. When you were on the right side of the board, is this the right game? Okay. Yeah, sorry. Oh, you have a white rook b8. Okay, so we're talking. Oh, this one. Okay. Okay, let me see. I go to d8. Hey, Henry KDZ, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm showing some games from. I'm showing some games I managed to lose yesterday. Go back, the board flipped. Okay. Okay. Is it in this game or... Hey, it's very good to see you, Henry. Very nice. Anyway, so... Hey, Evan, thank you for the sub. That's very greatly appreciated. Very greatly appreciated. Buffalo Johnny, here are the points. Point number 1 is I obviously have a weakness in complex endgames. Not simple endgames, but complex endgames. Obviously, we are looking here at the 4 different games, all played on the same day, all completely won that I managed to lose and draw. So, I'm sorry to flip like this for you. That's number 1. And second, I need to... Hey, Lali! Wait a second, Lali. First, welcome to joining us. It's very good to see you, but isn't this fairly late for you? It's like 3:13 Hungary. But anyway, it's very good to see you. I'm showing some somewhat illustrative games from my from yesterday, including the game I think you saw live, which was against Isolated Killer. So Buffalo Johnny, to return to the point, I have a difficulty first converting these endgames that are completely won. Yeah, exactly, Henry. Well, that's exactly right. And second, I need to be able, even no need to apologize, I can completely relate. This is exactly my story. I played I played the same way. I basically made an even longer break than you did. I played competitively when I was a teenager, then I made like a 30+ year break, and now I'm trying to get back. Thank you, Henry. 2200 is very nice to hear. I appreciate that. But what, to go back to Buffalo, to answer to Buffalo Johnny, what they need to do in these games is, number one, convert them. That's number one. Second, I need to be able to see these tactical opportunities. You see, this is a win. And this is actually an easy win. And honestly, of everything that I've missed, this bothers me. That's number one. So that's one opportunity. Second opportunity here is, this is a completely lost position. And there is a very simple option. This is now a draw. So, so I have a problem with complex end games, the games that transition from middle game to very simple end games. And second, I have a very hard time spotting end game tactics. I shouldn't missing this. I shouldn't have missed that. I don't know how I'm going to fix the problem with endgame tactics for the very simple reason. The chess tempo doesn't have any tactics. I may actually listen to Lali's advice and, take and start doing going into Dvoretsky and figuring out if Dvoretsky can head. And unfortunately, the play on end games for 100 hours, that may not be a bad idea. Computer bots are very good about spotting tactics, even in end games. But good news here is, lesson learned. Adoption is hard. I think we all knew that. I have a definitive weakness in my game, which is clearly identified with endgames. And I need to, once you identify the problem, you can start working on it. And I'm going to keep you guys appraised, and we'll go from there. I also have a little bit of a failure of a nerve. In other words, if you look at this first game against Jesse, okay, this was a mistake. But even when I blundered here, first I should have played c6. That was an easy move to spot. Even if I blundered this pawn, there is no need for me not to play for a distant passed pawn and bishop pair. In other words, there was there was everything still to play for. Instead, I folded my cards, which in retrospect is something that I shouldn't have been doing. I still have 46 seconds. I should be afraid of the time. I should have sat down and thought, okay, I screwed this up, but I'm still ahead. How do I convert this? And and there is also option 2, win it in the middle game. Yes, and I actually managed to win the game in the next game against Jesse. Was one in the middle game, and computer really liked that game. It was an attack against French. So, all right. The purpose of this stream was to share with you guys something that I have learned. I have also discovered that these streams, both these streams and these matches against stronger players have really tremendously improved my chess. I think I have played over, I think, something like 120 games against higher rated opposition on a relatively slow time format. And we're gonna work on an end game. I'm gonna report to you guys what my plan is. I think I'm gonna listen to Lali's advice and I'm gonna start dwelling into this. Hey, Bullet Mercenary, my friend, it's always good to see you. No. You know, the purpose of being hard on yourself is to get better, and you know, once we have identified the potential area of problem, we can start working on it, and that's the whole point. And it's very good to see you here. And by the way, I'm looking forward to your match on Friday. I think you are a favorite. Don't quote me, don't clip me, but I think you're a favorite. Did white c3? Yes, basically what happened here. Lovely 1, 2, 3, 5 position. Is it an endgame book, Lali? Okay, yeah, eventually I did take there. So anyway, so guys, we have in chat Bullet Mercenary. He's a part of the Chessbrah community, and he's playing a match. It's on Saturday, right? Bullet Mercenary. So he's playing a match, and please, it's going to be on the Chessbrah channel. Let's give a shout out to Chessbrah. And yeah, this okay, wonderful. So please join. It's going to be a very, very fun match. And to answer your question, to answer Buffalo Johnny's question, that's exactly what the problem is. In other words, the answer is really no. And one thing that I was taught by various people who helped me, coaches and grandmasters and streamers, is that because endgame is usually played until certain time constraints and time pressure, and I have to say one thing as a quick aside, you know, I'm pretty good. You know, this was a 3.0 game. You know, normally I tended historically to lose these games on time. The fact that I had 34 seconds in the end of the game left is actually pretty good for me. But the purpose of this is for those end games to become part of your, if you want, innate pattern recognition, so you can even play them and see them and understand them while you are playing, when you're low on time. In other words, it's part of, you know, we all understand pattern recognition as far as middle game and combinations are concerned. But there is a pattern recognition and understanding of the position and ability to convert that's also associated with these complex endgames. And I think, yes, it's like a Rubik's Cube, exactly. So that is something that I am going to focus on in the next couple of weeks, and let's see how it happens. My next match, adoption match, is against WGM Adriana Nikolova. That's this coming Sunday at noon, and I'll start dwelling it. I'm not saying that I'm going to acquire all the necessary endgames. God knows, studying Dvoretsky book is going to take a couple of months. But let's, you know, let's see where it goes. And it's not all the endings. Oh, and Julian, thank you for joining us. It's always good to see you. Yes, too old, too slow. You know, Adderall may even here. Adderall may work. I'm at an age when I don't think, you know, it's, but it's easier to forget than to remember. And those never worked for me, but I will try. Anyway. All right, guys. So, quick shout out to my dear friend and fellow streamer, FIDE Master Julian Landau, who these days go until... oh, hey, we have the opponents themselves. Hello, hashtag. Very good to see you. Thank you. And we have hashtag checks and chats in chat. I don't know whether this is Jesse or Rebecca. So I'm actually just at the end of the stream. Please give the ladies a follow. They are great streamers. They have plenty of great events, and they are very strong, as I learned to my own peril. I have oh, Evan, that's very good to hear. Thank you. That actually means quite a lot. So, you know, I showed 3 games, basically first 2 games against Jesse, and then first game against Rebecca that I... Oh, that's Plenty. Hey, Plenty, very good. Well, it's very good. I'm quite sure they're very happy to have you cover for them, so they are not working. So there's somebody working for them when I sleep. I'm almost jealous there. Anyway, so hey, Plenty, it's nice to see you. So Henry, let me see what the thing about Grandmasters, and I think I played enough. Yeah, and that's basically the conclusion here. I had, and what was very funny, the pattern continues. I've showed 4 games. This is minus 7.29, missed tactical opportunity. This was at some point what, +3. This is -3. This was also 1. Trick here is to find a way to convert these complex endgames into actual points, and that will go from there. Evan, that's actually a great idea for a stream. I'm gonna probe. That might not be a bad idea to do it. And Julian, that's actually very kind words. I have a special. There is a special clip associated to. Thanks, Mad Queen. That's good. That's actually a perfect command. Dirkie, let me know if you want to become mod so you can respond in kind. And yes, endgames, and the complex endgames. I have a special emote for you, Julian. This is Alessia's Ferrari. And yeah, the thing, Henry, that the problem is with this endgames is that you really do not have that much time to do the standard candidate move calculation. It's oh, okay, so that's yours. But anyway, I'll work on it. I'll keep you guys posted. If you haven't joined I have actually a reason, Discord, when I announce streams. And my next stream is on Wednesday, probably at 8 p.m. with Grandmaster Naroditsky. It's part of Nikola Lawrence Chess Series. Then on Thursday there is another stream with International Master Arne Rudolph, and I'm playing Adriana Nikolova on Sunday at noon. Yes, I got it. So Julian, that's your Ferrari, not Alessia's. Okay, understood. Okay, very good. We're gonna wait for Alessia to come back, and then we're gonna sort that out. Guys, this is all I had planned for today. It's very good to see you. Thank you, Raiders, for joining us. It was always a pleasure. This was a very nice. This was a very nice stream. It was a little bit painful, but the good point of this is that definitive weakness was uncovered, and once it's uncovered, you can work on it. So, who are we going to raid today? Let's see who can use a raid. Okay, who is actually playing chess? Buddha is, I'm gonna, thank you, I can, yeah, I think she's playing, I think Andrea is actually playing Valorant. So I'm gonna raid Nikki. because Nikki has always is a great. Yes, hashtag chess. Unfortunately, the music is one of those non-copyrighted songs, so we are kind of limited in what our choice have. I'm going to send you to Nikki Naisir. She's a Turkish streamer who also streams in English. She does lots of chess for beginners, and her streams are always very interesting and educational. Don't play Among Us with her, because she's gonna she's the number one imposter. Exactly, yes, she gets to be the imposter probably 50% of the time, and she always pretends she's nice, but I'm pretty sure she has a talent. But that's a story for another stream. Anyway, thank you guys for joining. I am sending you to Nikki. Say hello to her. She's a very great streamer, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you for all the support, and thank you, Evan. Thank you, Mad Queen. Thank you, Julian. Dirkie, Latinkista. It's all, and Hedgehog. Very good to see you. It's always a pleasure, and looking forward to seeing you guys again.